What's up, guys? This is your boy Chris C. Pupsarod, bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps you with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of all of your vehicles. On today's show, we're going to talk about a quick situation where there's going to be a team up, as it were, with Nissan, Honda, and Mitsubishi. We're going to go down that little rabbit hole. We're also going to talk about we bring you another vehicle situation where a gentleman is talking about what he hates about his new vehicle as we go down the line of finding vehicles that are acceptable to drive and acceptable to buy in these day and age. And finally, we're going to talk about Stellantis and their move to start getting rid of brands and their move to inevitably get rid of Maserati as well as other brands and what this means for the automotive industry. Alright, so first up, we're going to do a little bit of reading. We've heard a lot lately about the China tariff and the effect it would have on vehicles coming over from China. And this has taken a massive toll on the automotive industry, particularly other vehicles that come from Asian places, like the Nissan, the Hondas, the Mitsubishis of the world. Well, they've decided that they're going to merge in some way, and we tend to think that it's related to the China tariffs and all of the future things that are going to be going down when it goes to these automakers and the future as it comes to their market share. So, quick article we're going to read talking about a merger between Nissan, Honda, and Mitsubishi, and we're just going to talk about it for a second. All right, of course, we're going to automotive news, our favorite place to get our automotive news. It's an article by Hans Grimmel and dated August 6th. And Carlos Ghosn calls Nissan Honda Mitsubishi deal a disguised takeover by Honda. Former Nissan chairman Carlos Ghosn says Nissan's plan to team with Honda and Mitsubishi will be hard to pull off successfully no matter how it shapes up. This is an interesting guy, so let's read this article. Carlos Ghosn, the man who led Nissan through nearly 2 decades of productive partnership with Renault before the alliance spectacularly imploded, says the success of a new three-way tie-up among Nissan, Mitsubishi, and Honda will be easier said than done. The proposed all-Japan partnership announced at an August 1st news conference in Tokyo would team the companies to work on electric and software-defined vehicles and joint procurement. Nissan Motor Company and Honda Motor Company have begun outlining details of the idea, which stretches back to a preliminary agreement in March, saying that it would first jointly research an automotive software operating system over the next year and aim to deploy the next generation system after 2027. Signing an alliance is the easy part. Now, making the alliance work is a completely different story, Ghosn told Automotive News on August 5th from Lebanon, where he lives as a fugitive from Japanese authorities after jumping bail in December of 2019 and fleeing the country hidden in a box. Indeed, many details of Nissan-Honda deal, including funding and investment, are up in the air. Meanwhile, adding Mitsubishi to the mix brings another voice that could complicate discussions. Ghosn, who led the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance as its chairman until his arrest at a Tokyo airport in November 2018, said the new partners face big challenges. The relationship, he added, seems more like a budding Honda takeover than a true collaboration of equals. Nissan saw ballooning U.S. incentives nearly completely erase its profit in the April-June quarter as it struggles with sustaining global sales volume growth. The company posted a 4.1% increase in global sales to 3.4 million in the fiscal year ended March 31st. Ever since rebalancing alliance with Renault last year to gain independence, Nissan has resembled a company trying to find a savior, Ghosn said. Signing an agreement with Honda looks like an initiative of trying to turn attention away from the miserable results. Honda reports its fiscal first quarter earnings August 7th. Japan's number 2 automaker, in contrast to Nissan, announced record operating income in the fiscal year ended March 31st as global sales climbed 11% to 4.1 million vehicles. I can't imagine for one moment how it's going to work between Honda and Nissan unless it's a takeover. Unless it's a disguised takeover by Honda of Nissan and Mitsubishi with Honda in the driver's seat, Golson said. It's going to be a takeover, a disguised takeover. Nissan and Honda haven't discussed capital cross-holdings between each other. Nissan CEO Makoto Uchida and Honda CEO Toshiro Mibe said at their joint news conference. But Mibe added that he isn't ruling it out. The partners are considering many options, perhaps even setting up a new company, the Honda boss added. Honda took that approach in establishing a separate EV venture with electronics and tech giant Sony. Big challenge. Golson was sent by Renault to Japan in 1999 to lead Nissan back from the brink of bankruptcy. His initial success in turning around the troubled Japanese industrial icon won him accolades as a managerial miracle worker. He was soon entrusted to head both the French and Japanese car makers, becoming the first person to simultaneously lead two Fortune 500 companies. By 2016, he had orchestrated Nissan's purchase of a controlling 34% stake in Mitsubishi Motors Corporation, solidifying the Grand Alliance's position as the world's biggest auto group. Looking back, Golson said, successful partnerships are a holistic balancing act. Saying they will work together is just 5% of the challenge. The other 95% of the areas are where you really need to sit down, have a strong position, and have a reputation of the work, Golson said. You need to work on synergies. You need to make sure that you're not fixated about your identity or your national belonging. You need to really look at your bottom line and increasing your revenues, cutting your costs. The new alliance taking shape might have trouble delivering on all its potential, given Honda's history of determined independence, Golson said. Honda has never been in a significant capital tie with another car maker, although it has loose ties with General Motors. During his time in Nissan, Golson said the company never considered pairing with Honda. Golson's era at Renault Nissan-Mitsubishi crashed to an end with his arrest and eventual indictment in Japan on 4 charges of financial misconduct. The former Nissan executive, who denies any wrongdoing, says the charges leveled against him were concocted to block Nissan's fuller integration with Renault. Golson had holed up in his ancestral homeland of Lebanon since fleeing Japan, and a dramatic dark of night escape packed in a box aboard a charter jet. Japan issued an Interpol red notice for his arrest, but Golson holds a Lebanese passport and Lebanon doesn't extradite its U.S. citizens. Good to know. Golson said he spends his time now teaching at a local college and fielding overtures from startups seeking business advice. He continues to fight various legal cases around the world, including in Japan, where prosecutors are still pursuing criminal charges, and Nissan has brought a $15.5 billion yen, 105.8 million civil complaint. Meanwhile, Golson has filed his own civil claim in a Lebanese court against Nissan, seeking $1 billion in damages and lost compensation. Dang. I have my lawyers there playing with this. I have turned the page. I have my own life here. I'm a 70-year-old man. I had a very hectic life, so I'm trying to enjoy a little bit of time for me also. All right, so really interesting guy Golson is. So to catch his word on this merger is very interesting because he has an insight that most people don't have. Now, for me, I agree with him. Honda is a powerhouse that will just engulf Mitsubishi and Nissan and, just turn them into another brand. It'll just be like Stellantis, like we'll be talking about in a second. But the reason that they decided these mergers is because, of course, about the EV industry. And with China already taking on all these tariffs because of the EV industry and the EV vehicles coming from there, Japan is just gearing up to avoid this in their near future. They've already put a solid foot in the American auto market share, so they don't want to lose that. And if the big three has anything to say about it, they'll be paying tariffs just like any other company that is not here in the United States. So what we really think is that this is just a move to solidify their position and to get allies together to fight the big three. The big three has dominated the market share for quite some time, and they're losing it. They're losing it big, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But this is the perfect time for those companies in Japan to partner together, to ante up, to get their ducks in a row, to get their automotive army together, as it were, to combat all of the situations that they see coming down the pipeline. Tariffs from America for their vehicles, anything like that is going to be best fought with allies. So you're trying to get an allied situation going. Dollars or donuts, Honda with its might and its market share would probably engulf Nissan and Mitsubishi, but who knows what the future holds for them. We'll just see how they compete, because that's all it's about. All right, next up, we're going to check out an article or check out a video about a young man who's talking about his Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now, the Ford Mustang Mach-E was one of the, and I talked about this before, but one of the EV vehicles that I myself was thinking about purchasing. I decided against it because I do plan to move from California here in the near future, so there's no point in me purchasing a new personal vehicle here. I know that I'm going to purchase a new vehicle when I get back to where I'm going. So I decided against it. It's still up in the air. I might still do it. Who knows? But ran across this article about this gentleman talking about what he hates about his Mach-E. So we're going to check that out. And we're just going to keep doing that because we understand that eventually most people do have to buy new vehicles. It's just one of those things that happens. Cars break down all the time. If you have the money to buy a new vehicle and just want to buy one, I'm all for it. But if you are not in the greatest financial situation, ride your hoopty till the wheels fall off. And then you have to buy you a new vehicle. Go right ahead. Let's check out if the Mach-E is...
Hey guys, it's Car Guy 11. My 2022 Ford Mustang Mach-E is already 3 months
Car
old.
Guy 11.
And I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would. But it doesn't come without annoyances like every car. And today we're going to go through the things I hate about my Mach-E.
The first item is the rotary shift knob on the Mach-E. And this isn't exclusive to the Mach-E. It's on a lot of Ford products. I just don't like the rotary knobs because it's very hard to tell what gear you're in. There's no different detents.
Hate rotary knobs. It is one of the silliest shifter situations that I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what they were thinking about when they did it. Only thing I hate more is there's a shifter system where there are buttons and you don't even push them down, you got to pull them up. That is probably the worst shifter situation out nowadays. But I truly hate these knobs. Definitely one of the main reasons I just didn't go ahead and buy that Mach-E that I was looking at. Just they have them in trucks real bad nowadays and Ford F-150s, and I'm just not with it.
Or anything, because when you're doing fast maneuvers in a parking lot situation, you constantly have to look down to see what gear you're in. And yes, there is a gear display on the dash, but it is kind of hidden by the steering wheel as well. So I wish it was just a regular shifter or even a push button would have been nicer here. Next, while I love the huge center screen Ford provided on the Mach-E, it's amazing to me that there is no split screen option. You have this huge navigation map on the display, which is great, but I would love to have a small audio portion showing what's playing. Yes, you get the station, a little tile there, and you can click on it and it'll switch, but it takes the map away then. So you're always having to constantly go back and forth. And even on the dash display, there is no audio information. And that brings me to the next item. There is very limited customization on this dash display. It does change based on what your modes, and you can turn on and off this lane keep and it will switch up slightly, but no real customization here. In addition, there is no energy regen display, But you're probably wondering why I show one here. But that is because I added it with the ForScan program available. Only the GT models come with this display showing power and regen, but on the regular Mach-E's it doesn't. It's a very nice feature to see how much you're regen when you're braking. So I did add that, and that is a nice feature that you can add some of these things back with ForScan. I added the kick to open tailgate as well, and a few other items. Another thing strange to me that's on a lot of other vehicles is a mute button on the steering wheel. If you're playing something, you need to mute for some reason, there's no way to do that on the steering wheel. What you have to do is hit the power button on the center screen, which isn't too big a deal, but it would be nice to have it on the steering wheel. And another big disappointment is Ford does not give you how fast the vehicle is charging when you're plugged in. Even at a fast charger, you want to see how fast it's going. You have to look at the charger itself. It doesn't show on the big screen, doesn't show on the center screen, doesn't show on the Ford app, which I don't know any other electric vehicle that doesn't show that. Yes, it does give you efficiency and some other stats, but I think charging speed is a very important item that's not on it. Hopefully the charger you're at will display that, but a lot of these destination chargers don't show that kind of information. Another more minor annoyance is regarding the seats, and including the memory function. You cannot change your memory while the car is moving. And I know you're saying that's a safety feature, but on my other vehicles, while you're moving, all you have to do is press and hold that button and it will move. I can understand you don't want to just press it and it move automatically, but that's how they get around it. And not with Fords, apparently. You have to be in park and stop. Also, with the seat adjustments, it does not have a front tilt like most other premium vehicles. When you push the front of the lever, it only raises and lowers the back of the seat, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable when you have a front tilt. And the seats itself, I don't feel like they're the most comfortable, again, compared to more premium seats that have multiple adjustments. Now, as we start to step outside the vehicle, you can see how large the battery pack is. Well, this is supposed to be an SUV with a lot of ground clearance. The ground clearance is very small, about 5 inches on this vehicle. So I'm coming out of a Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk that had a ton of ground clearance. You actually have to be very careful opening doors when you're parked near a sidewalk in order not to scratch anything. But it's kind of deceiving because you are sitting up high, but yet the battery's below you and you don't have as much clearance as you think you do. And
I think it's kind of weird that that's where the battery is located. There could be a lot of problems with that being the spot for the battery. When I was service manager over at Hyundai, I was doing a lot of Priuses, doing a lot of those hybrid batteries, doing the replacement. Those can be very expensive, and they're very not very hard to break. Is the best way I want to say it. I've seen people just drop them and they just be gone. So yeah, it's a interesting and not a good spot for the battery. I didn't know that.
Speaking of its SUV claims, there are no factory options for a tow hitch. I had to get this aftermarket from EcoHitch. I did make a video on it, but you cannot order a Mach-E with a tow hitch in the US. Another one in the back here is the tailgate does not have a lock and close button. Yes, you can close it, but you cannot lock the vehicle from the back here. You'd have to use your remote or press it on the door to lock the vehicle. Now, if the vehicle is already locked, as you can see the mirror closed, the vehicle will lock again once the tailgate is closed. Now, this next one is probably the most annoying feature in my opinion. There is no power charge door. You have to put your hands on the paint. Sometimes it doesn't open, to open and close it. You use this
door multiple times a day sometimes, and it would just be nice to at least, at a minimum, be auto open with it spring loaded. Maybe you can use your key and it would just open, and then you have to manually close it. But having to touch the paint to open and close it every time is super annoying to me, and it's bound to be scratched up, this door, in no time. So guys, that's my list. Let me know if you have more in the comments below. You know, one bonus one, I would kind of like a head-up display on this car, but not a huge deal. At least it does give you a dash display. So anyway guys, appreciate you watching. Give it a thumbs up.
Alright, and that was the Car Guy 11. Go subscribe to him. He seems really cool. And I liked it, the Mach-E. He pointed out some things that I did not know, even when I was looking at the one that I was looking at. Just didn't inquire at where the battery was. Didn't know about the tow hitch situation. But of course, just like most of these I hate videos we do, seems that the problems that these people are complaining about are not only minor, but some of them are software related. So with these new EVs, you can realize that a lot of these problems, of course, can be fixed with software updates. I don't know if he is, or because he of course he did do an app update so he could see that the percentage, the regen percentage, and we just have to realize that, and of course this is what I'm talking about. You have to do the research on these vehicles before you buy them as much as you can. There's some things that you're of course not going to know, but you have to do the research. You have to research it. You have to realize if it's going to be something that you want. You cannot go out and buy a car just for the looks and then start hating how it feels, how it drives, because you're going to spend the rest of your life with a vehicle that you don't like. And that's just like spending the rest of your life with a woman that you don't like. It's horrible. So just continue to do your research before you buy your cars. Make sure they have pretty much everything that you need, and then take it for a test drive if you can. It's not always a situation where you can't take a vehicle for a test drive, but if you can, take the vehicle for a test drive, because it could look good, but it could drive horribly. Alright, and last but not least, we're going to talk about Stellantis. And of course, we've talked about Stellantis ad nauseum over the course of these shows so many times. And the majority of what we talked about Stellantis was about its executives and GMs and managers quitting. So many of their executives and GMs have decided that they're going to retire, they're going to quit, they're going to better places. I've done so many shows about that. I've also done so many shows about layoffs at factories for Stellantis and all the other issues that they've been having, particularly since the UAW Big Three situation. Well, we've come to decide that Stellantis seems to be more of a corporate raider. Do you guys remember what a corporate raider was? It was a term coined way back in the day about a company that comes in and buys another company and then pretty much cuts it up into pieces, sells the pieces off, and then just dissolves the company. Lately, we've been hearing that Stellantis is deciding that they're going to get rid of Maserati. They've already decided that they were going to move Ram over somewhere else. They've made so many changes to Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep that it's starting to get sickening, because it is one of my favorite automakers. So, real quickly, we're going to check out the story about them and Maserati, and then we're going to talk deeply about really what's going on with Stellantis and Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Stellantis gives hints at selling Maserati. The Italian brand is in deep trouble after sales in H1 2020 fell by more than 50%. Managing 14 brands is a tricky business for Stellantis. Shortly after releasing disappointing results for the first half of the year, CEO Carlos Tavares said the unprofitable company would be shut down. In addition to potentially shutting down unprofitable automakers, the conglomerate may look to offload others. Maserati is in pole position to secure a takeover. This isn't just hot gossip, as there's a real statement from a Stellantis official. Chief Financial Officer Natalie Knight admitted that there may come a time when Maserati will be up for grabs. His exact words were, "There may come a time in the future when we see what is best for Maserati." The statement comes shortly after week H1 2020 for sales results. Through June, the troubled Italian Mark sold 6,500 cars, down more than 50% compared to the first half of 2023, when 15,300 vehicles were delivered. The Trident logo company has had a troubled life, having had more than a few owners since its founding in 1914. Italian industrialist Adolfo Orsi, along with Citroën, De Tomaso, Chrysler, Fiat, and Ferrari, once owned shares in or controlled Maserati. The company currently falls under the Stellantis corporate umbrella after Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA Group merged in 2021. Automotive News Europe reports that Maserati's future looks bleak in terms of product launches. Except for the electric MC20 coming next year, the other new models won't be introduced until 2027. The Folgore branded supercar is unlikely to move the market, considering that this model will be a niche model with a high price tag. Finding a new home for Maserati won't be easy given the company's track record. Maserati has been struggling for as long as we can remember, so we're not sure a beer would rush to acquire the Modena-based company if the opportunity arose. Maybe Ferrari could give it another go. The prancing horse, who had full control of Maserati between 1999 and 2005, are now in better shape than ever, so perhaps they could rejuvenate their former rival and ally. Then again, Maranello is busy working on electric vehicles, so maybe this isn't the right time.
So what we're talking about is that Stellantis has all of these brands, and not only Maserati, but there's several brands, the Ram brand, Chrysler, they're all talking about selling these brands off of Stellantis. And it's come to the point where we just have decided, or we really believe, that Stellantis is just going to become a corporate raider. And what a corporate raider standardly is a person or company that comes in, buys a company, or just takes it over, and then as they work with the company, they start chopping off segments of the company, selling it off to make profit before they dissolve the company entirely. I myself was a corporate raider for a little while. I did have to, my job actually when I was doing that was to go into a place and to make and see if I could make it profitable again. And standardly, I would be able to make it profitable again, but the company that hired me would eventually still decide that they want to cut it into sections and sell it off at a profit and dissolve the companies. It's happened, I've had to do it 2 or 3 times. It wasn't a lot. But just like at the Sears Auto Center, when they started closing, they decided to take it over, and the first thing they did was they sold the Duralast battery systems. And of course, Duralast was pretty much Sears Auto Center's biggest profit maker. Batteries were a constant seller. People coming in, replacing their batteries all the time. So it was a big money maker for the Sears Auto Center, and it was the first thing to go when Sears got sold. And corporators tend to come in and they tend to make things look good in the beginning, make things look profitable, make it look like things are coming up, and in the background they're pretty much selling all the tires out the back door, selling all the brands that you've incorporated back to other companies, and just pretty much getting ready to get rid of the company itself. And this has been happening everywhere a lot lately, especially with all of the layoffs and closing, so it's not unusual. But this is a problem. Stellantis, after taking over Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, they've just decided that with all of the market share loss that they're seeing, all of the losses they've taken. I mean, the major loss they took when it came to UAW situation, major losses they've taken at major factories, all of the executives that they're leaving. I told you guys a long time ago that the executives jumping ship was the big scene. That was the big notification for us that there was a problem with Stellantis. And it continues to happen. I think there was an executive that left last week. So we knew that there was something major, big going on at the top. We didn't know exactly what it was, but we realize now that most of these executives and people understand that Stellantis has decided that specifically the Chrysler Dodge Jeep group is not as profitable as they thought they were before they purchased them. And they're just going through the process of turning themselves into corporate raiders, selling off portions like Maserati, like Chrysler, so they can make money and continue to be the big conglomerate that they are. Because they have, over 17 brands as it is. So they've gotten to the point where they've taken on too many brands and they just want to buy and sell, make money, and get up out of there. It's common corporate raider stuff, and it's continuously happening all the time, and it's not unusual that it's happening in the automotive industry, specifically with everybody trying to get back together, specifically the conversation we just had about Honda, Mitsubishi, and Nissan. People trying to become allies, to become stronger, to fight against the big three. It's just the automotive industry is a big mess right now, specifically the big three here in America. They've been going through so many problems. They've been having so much competition from top to bottom that it's starting to shake them up just like this is. So, will they sell Maserati? Probably. It probably will be sold fairly soon. Probably sell it to Jag Land Rover. That's the company that, when I was working at a Jag Land Rover dealership, it had a Maserati portion of it, and it was when the sale to Chrysler Dodge Jeep happened, they pretty much gave their Maserati stuff completely over to Chrysler Dodge Jeep. Kicker was, Maserati didn't last very long at that Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealership. It was only there for like 6 months before they got rid of them. So Maserati is not the best of luxury products. Maseratis are nice cars. They're nice to look at. I had a Gilly. I love mine. But of course, I had to sell mine too. So it's just one of those things, my friends. These cars, these automakers are really starting to suffer, and we're really starting to see it. So that is it, my friends. Thanks for tuning in. I am Chris Surratt. Please like and subscribe. Share the video. Hit me in the DMs. Let me know if there's anything else we need to talk about. If you need any automotive advice, give me a call. I know what I'm talking about. Peace.